What's up, everyone? We are joined by Jeff Spiegel, and I am also on Jeff Spiegel's podcast. So it's a little bit of a weird setup, Jeff Spiegel, of the Dodger Blue DodgerHeads podcast. You confused me, not going to lie, right before we started recording. This is the Bronx Pinstripes Show and the DodgerHeads podcast to preview the Dodgers and the Yankees series, a big one. Jeff,
Yeah.
how you doing?
It's good. It's good to be here. This is fun. Getting to chat with somebody who's swimming in different waters than me. And like you said, I mean, Dodgers and Yankees getting together in Dodger Stadium. It feels big, even if it's a June series in the regular season. But I'm excited to break this one down.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
34, almost 35.
When's your birthday?
End of November. So I was born about a month after Kirk Gibson hit the famous home run.
We're basically the same age. I'm turning 35 in 18 days.
There you go.
So we do not know the Yankees-Dodgers rivalry.
It's true.
Because people older than us obviously do. So it's like, I have absolutely no disdain for the Dodgers. In fact, I think that what they've done over the past decade plus, just be such a consistent franchise, has been something to strive for, even though maybe the number of championships haven't been there. But I look at what the Yankees have been trying to do, and some people in the Yankees world joke they're trying to be the Dodgers, and they're just not doing it as well. But how do you view the Yankees from your standpoint?
Yeah, it is funny. It's helpful context, I think, the generational piece, because it's funny to hear you say that the Yankees are trying to be the Dodgers, because I think there's a lot of people who would say that the Dodgers are trying to be the Yankees of, 15 to 20 years ago. Yeah. And so maybe we're just taking turns of being the super successful, high spending team in Major League Baseball. But I'm with you. Like, when the Yankees come to town, I don't view it as a rivalry per se. I just view it as super exciting, because one of the most famous franchises that we almost never get to see in Dodger Stadium. Obviously, we'll start to see them more, but that's exciting to me. But to your point, Andrew, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, because one of the big talking points in LA are the Padres a rival of the Dodgers? And I think it's a generational thing. I think there are people, everybody agrees that we hate the Giants the most. I'll put that out there. Like, the Giants, we disdain. Clearly, you would say you disdain the Red Sox. Like, that is a very easy answer for both of us. But I think depending on your age will tell you how you fill out the number 2 spot in the teams that I hate the most. Because like you said, I've talked to some older people who would definitely say they hate the Yankees the most besides the Giants.
Well, our number 2 spot might be the same.
Okay.
Is it the Houston Astros?
Yeah. And that's where it's like, totally. I mean, I despise the Astros. It's almost in a different category because it has very little to do with like anything other than that one moment. We both hate the Astros for sure. Then for the Dodgers, is it the Padres? Some people hate the Cardinals because we had a bunch of years in a row where we met them in the postseason and it didn't go well. So I think those are kind of the 5 in the top 5, but I do agree with you. I think the Astros are very clearly, in my book, the team that I hate second most, and then the Padres. Those would be somewhere in 2 and 3 in some order.
Yeah. Kind of. It's just from the outsider looking in on the NL West, because right now the Diamondbacks are right on your tail, which I don't think anybody expected. Obviously, the Padres with all that name talent, like they were just at Yankee Stadium, and we were actually at the game. We had an event there on Saturday. Seeing Tatis and Soto. It was like it's a really fun team from the outsider's perspective to watch. But I could see you almost looking at them like maybe the Yankees have looked at a team like the Blue Jays, who have been adding talent and getting better and constantly chirping the Yankees. I mean, man, do the Blue Jays want there to be a rivalry with the Yankees, and the Yankees just continue to beat them down. Yeah. And so we're kind of just, big brother, little brother situation there. Is that kind of how it is with the Padres?
For sure. I think there's definitely, like many Dodger fans, if I was gonna maybe cross the line into being mean a little bit, there's a little bit of an inferiority complex down in San Diego because the Dodgers have just owned them for so long. I mean, for basically the last 25 years, Padres-Dodgers games in San Diego were mostly populated by Dodgers fans who went down there. But I would say that things have shifted because the Padres have been very good. And sort of last season, they knocked us out of the playoffs. Right. So It's harder to kind of just totally dismiss it because the Padres are one of the 5 best teams in baseball when you look at talent on the field. And they did knock us out of the postseason. So I do think there's a level of seriousness that does come. There have been some bad blood, some bench clearing stuff, some chirping back and forth. So I think it makes it fun. It makes those games way more exciting, even if we're early in the regular season when those two teams meet.
So before we start previewing the series, why don't you just give a little bit of a quick summary of how the Dodgers season has gone, keys to their season so far, and I can do the same for your audience on the Yankees side.
Yeah, it's great. The Dodgers, I think it's been a fascinating beginning to the season because if you just look at where they are, they're on pace for like 97 wins or something like that, which I think most Dodger fans, if you told them at the beginning of the year this team was going to win 97, which is 14 less than they won last year because they had a historic run, that people would probably be thrilled. I mean, I think most people I was talking to were living in the 94, 95 win range for their predictions. And so big picture, you zoom out, you look at the offense, you look at the wins, you say, things are going really, really well. I think day to day, it's been different. There's way more holes on this roster than Dodgers fans are used to. We're trying to figure out who the 5 starting pitchers are going to be. The bullpen, which is historically one of the best in baseball, has not been one of the best in baseball. They don't know who their best shortstop is. They can't figure out who their best 3 outfielders are. And so I would just say it's a confusing year for Dodgers fans that at the end of the day has still been successful. From the outside and from a big picture perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the Yankees, and as a Yankees, if you're a Yankees fan listening to this, you're going to say you could have said that about any of the past 6 seasons. It's injuries. Yeah. I want to read you the bottom of the Yankees lineup, 4 through 9 from 2 days ago in Seattle. Willie Calhoun, DJ LeMahieu, who's obviously a name, a household name, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Jake Bauers, Anthony Volpe, Jose Trevino, and Greg Allen. That was the Yankees 4 through 9, and they scored 10 runs in that game. They've been beating up on some, lesser than talent. They've struggled with teams ahead of them, Baltimore and Tampa Bay. They've struggled with those teams this year, and they got off to a little bit of a rough start as Tampa and Baltimore, and especially Tampa, just got off to a scorching hot start. The Yankees were in last place at one point, like deep into April, if it might have even been May, until they finally got out of last place, and then they've gone on a little bit of a run. But yeah, we're going to see for this series, seems like Stanton's going to be activated, Josh Donaldson's going to be activated, Tommy Kahnle, who was on the Dodgers roster last year, is going to be activated. Kahnle hasn't even been there so far this year. So it's like they've just been missing so much of their lineup, and it's really, at times they had a brief stint where Harrison Bader came back from the IL and carried them for like 10 days, and then Judge got really hot and was carrying them. So it's been one of those seasons that on a nightly basis, you kind of look through your fingers at the lineup, but somehow, some way they've been able to scratch out wins.
Yeah. And I think it's actually similar to the Dodgers from an injuries perspective. I mean, we just put up a video recently about Noah Syndergaard and how terrible he has been for the Dodgers. And I think the reaction we mostly get is, well, get rid of him. And the point I was making is Bobby Miller, who Yankees fans will see this weekend, who is the Dodgers' top pitching prospect. You could make a pretty compelling case. He began the year as the team's number 9 starter, like their 9th best option. And that's just based on like the guys who they've tried to use ahead of him. He's now the number 3 starter as we sit here today because Julio Urias is on the IL. Dustin May is on the IL. Their number 6 starter, Ryan Pepio, is on the IL. So all those guys. And then the same thing with the lineup. I mean, Miguel Rojas was brought in to back up Gavin Lux. Well, then Gavin Lux is out for the season. So they're starting shortstops. Miguel Rojas, who's one of the worst offensive players in baseball a year ago, hasn't been a whole lot better this year. On days when Will Smith sits, Austin Barnes is catching. He's, I believe, the worst offensive player in Major League Baseball so far this year, and he's playing 1 to 2 times a week. And then you look at the outfield. Trace Thompson was like in an 0 for 35 slump. James Outman, who had a hot start as a rookie center fielder, has been really bad for the month of May. David Peralta has like a 60 weighted runs created plus. So these are all guys who are playing really meaningful innings for the Dodgers between the rotation and the lineup. And so it's easy to look and say, hey, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, Max Muncy, JD Martinez has been really good, who we'll talk about. But as soon as you sort of come over that cliff and begin looking at 6 through 9, and as soon as you start looking at starters number 4 and 5, I like the analogy of looking through your fingers at the lineup card or the rotation. That's appropriate for the Dodgers as well.
In the list of injuries I was talking about, I didn't even mention Carlos Rodon, who they spent $160 million on, and he's still throwing bullpen sessions for the Yankees. So they had Luis Severino come back a couple weeks ago. He was injured. Yeah. Nestor Cortez, who was an all-star last year, has not been the same pitcher this year. Garrett Cole, who's going to go on Saturday for the Yankees was absolutely unhittable through 7 starts. And then the last 5 starts, he's kind of been bad. Like, it's not even been mediocre. He's been giving up a lot of home runs. Could just be, a little pitcher slump for him. So, one thing looking for this weekend, big time start at Dodger Stadium. Like, can he turn it around? Because he got the win last time against San Diego, but he gave up 5 runs and he gave up 2 home runs. And Judge also robbed a third home run in that game. So it's like, dude, you didn't pitch well.
Right. Well, it's interesting looking at Cole because I was putting some notes together for this one. I mean, Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw are basically the same pitcher in 2023. Kershaw, pitcher of the month in Major League Baseball for the month of April. In the month of May, 5.55 ERA, 42 base runners allowed in his last 24 and a third, has allowed 4 earned runs in both of his last 2 starts. Then I went into Cole and I was like, oh, the numbers look good. And then I dug in. 5.18 ERA in May, 50 base runners allowed in 33 innings, has allowed 5 earned runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. So both of these guys were incredible in April, and they basically have identical numbers and over 5 ERA in the month of May. So it would have been fun if they were pitching against each other, Kershaw Friday, Cole Saturday. But I'll be curious to see if one of the keys seems to be like, can either one of those guys break out of the little slump that they're in?
Yeah. What do you think is going on with Kershaw right now? What's going on with his slump?
So off the field, it has to be pointed out, he has not acknowledged this as a reason, but his mother passed away recently, and he did go on the bereavement list, but he didn't miss a start. And so that obviously was weighing heavily. I mean, as just human beings, I can't imagine how that wasn't a factor in there. And so with that said, it's not a guarantee that his mind is just going to snap to and he's going to be okay here in the next couple of weeks either. So I think that's part of it. I mean, Kershaw, while he has struggled to stay healthy over the last few seasons, the one thing you could say is whenever he was on the mound, he was insane. I mean, the ERA has been great every single year. And so that hasn't typically been a question. He starts this season. Like I said, he was the best pitcher in baseball, according to the awards folks, in the month of April. And so I don't think I'm worried about Kershaw necessarily, but I also wouldn't say I'm placing my money on him to snap out of it this start on Friday against the Yankees either.
Yeah, we've seen stretches from Garrett Cole, both the dominant Cole and then also the bad Cole. Like last year, he gave up 33 home runs on the season that led the American League. Definitely, I don't know if it led all of Major League Baseball, but he's just gone through these stretches where he'll strike out 9 guys, but he'll also leave 4 fastballs in the middle of the plate. And it's always going to be an extra base hit. And a lot of times it's going to be a home run. And he kind of gets this look on his face. I mentioned this on a recent episode. When he was pulled out of that game on Sunday, he kind of had like this blank stare on his face. Like he couldn't believe what was happening. Like he didn't know why he was getting hit. And he's such an analytical guy. He takes it so seriously. There's constant shots of him in the dugout, just studying, film, studying, notebooks or whatever, and also reviewing that with some of the other Yankees pitchers. So it's not for lack of working hard or anything like that. It's just sometimes I think he may overthink things or get in his own head. And then if you want me to be cynical, it's because he's not using sticky stuff anymore.
Mm. Yeah, well, and from the outside, this is a question I wanted to ask you. Sticky stuff has been a talking point around the Yankees. You've got a guy coming back from a suspension because of sticky stuff. His first start back from suspension, Herman got lit up, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks. Is it with him? I mean, is it the same conversation? Like, is there genuine concern that he gets busted for sticky stuff and then comes back and struggles, or is that a blip in the radar and reading too much into one bad start?
He's a number 5 pitcher. He's a number 4 pitcher on his best day anyway. So, and I watch it, watching his performance. I don't think in his return to the mound, I don't think he got lit up. I think, that's kind of the pitcher he is. That line is the pitcher he is. People point to his spin rate not really changing at all this season. So they're saying, oh, well, maybe it was just rosin. And, maybe that's the case, or maybe he was using whatever was deemed too sticky by Major League Baseball umpires that he's been using that all season. Yeah. It doesn't look good for him that the first time he got investigated, he took a perfect game into the 6th inning. Okay. So that didn't look good right there. And then the game that he eventually got ejected from, I think he was only allowed like 1 base runner through 5 innings or through 4 innings or whatever it was. So you're like, those 2 games specifically, he looked extra dominant. But having watched Domingo Germán for a number of seasons, like he's been with the Yankees for a while, he'll have games where he looks amazing, and then he'll have games where he looks terrible. And that's just because he's kind of an average pitcher. And it all nets out to about a 4.2 ERA in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And that's what it'll be interesting, because on the Dodgers side, as I head into this series and pitching as we're talking about it, it's hilarious that you get Kershaw on Friday, a name that everyone in the league is going to be very familiar with. And then the other two pitchers that people are going to find, if they're just finding out about the Dodgers, are going to be some Google searches going on. Saturday, it's Michael Grove, who it's his first start back since he was on the injured list. He was really good on his rehab assignment, 10 innings pitched, just 2 earned runs, 14 strikeouts. His velocity ticked up a little bit over what we've seen historically, which is nice. But this isn't like a top 100 rookie. Like, he's not a huge prospect. He's kind of a guy that best case scenario is probably like a number 4.5, 5 starter. The Major League Baseball, I will say his ERA this year looks terrible, 8.44. There was one
that
game
looks
earlier,
terrible.
It is, and it is terrible. And I don't just mean it looks terrible, it is terrible. It is worth pointing out that I think he's made 4 starts, and he was just left out there to die because he was a rookie and because they needed. So he's got 3.1 innings, 12 hits, 9 earned. That's one of the starts on his record. The other 3 have all been pretty, I would say, like you said, it's number 5 starter stuff. If he gets out of there with an ERA of 4 to 5, the Dodgers are going to be happy. On Sunday, though, you'll see Bobby Miller, who's the Dodgers' top pitching prospect. The expectation was not that he would be ready and up at the major league level this early in the season. As I said, he was the number 9 guy on the depth chart probably, and they're down to number 9 at this point. But he has been actually very good. Top pitching prospect in the league, top 25 guy on basically every national list, throws 100 miles an hour, will be throwing 100 miles an hour into the 5th inning. Just 1 earned run in each of his 2 starts so year. I wouldn't say he has been that good. I think the numbers, he's gotten a little bit fortunate with some batted ball luck and some double plays. But so I would just say that the headline here is 2 separate pitchers that you're going to see. Grove, a guy who has a little bit more major league experience than Miller, but the ceiling is much lower, versus Miller, who has been really good, but has only made 2 starts. And the stuff is going to wow you. I'm just warning you. You're going to see the guy throwing 101, and you're going to be like, holy smokes, who is this guy?
Yeah, no, that's all good context for your listeners, and for the Yankees pitchers. I think they're going to recognize all the names. Domingo Germán for the wrong reasons, because he's been suspended. We already talked about Garrett Cole, but Luis Severino, this will be his 3rd start back from the IL. He's been on the IL every single year for the Yankees since 2019. When he's on the field and pitching, he's been really good. He's been good as a reliever. He's been good as a starting pitcher. It's just he gets hurt every single year, and it's unfortunate because he hasn't had a full season of being healthy since 2018, when he was, I think, top 3 in Cy Young finishes. And like, that is the caliber pitcher Luis Severino can be. It's just he hasn't been healthy. He's been good in his first 2 starts back. I expect him to be good again. And then he might wind up on the IL again in September, because that's just this Luis Severino experience.
So would you say, heading into a series like this, Severino, Cole, and Germán, like, do you feel good about the state, the way that the rotation lines up? Again, we're not trying to overemphasize how important this 3-game set is, but if we're just talking about how the Yankees are going to fare in Los Angeles, like, do you feel pretty good about that? Considering
Clarke Schmidt, who did pitch well against Seattle yesterday, Clarke Schmidt's been terrible this year. He's been pitching a little bit better of late, but I'd never feel good when Clarke Schmidt takes the mound. Nestor Cortes was actually the Yankees' best pitcher last year, better than Garrett Cole. And he was the one I felt the most confident in whenever he took the ball. This year, when he faces the lineup for the 3rd time through, or he nears 85, 95 pitches, he just falls apart. Opponents have over 1,000 OPS against him after that point in the game. And you saw that again in his last time out. So the fact that you are not seeing both of those pitchers, I guess, is a good thing. If I had to pick, I would say I'd rather have Nestor Cortes pitching than Domingo Germán, because I think Domingo Germán could give up 4 runs in 3 innings. And that's a very real possibility. But Severino and Cole, even if Cole hasn't been pitching well, those are the Yankees' 2 best pitchers, because their $160 million man is still throwing long toss in the outfield.
Yeah. And it's interesting. The reason I ask is because I asked myself that question as I was prepping for this. And it is funny. I would say the Dodgers have 2 pitchers right now that you would feel pretty good about. Kershaw, who I just said has been pretty bad in the month of May. And then Tony Gonsolin, who, despite there's skeptics based on StatCast and underlying metrics, and yet it's a guy who just continues to put up ERAs well below 3. Those are the 2 guys that I think you would have some degree of confidence in. Bobby Miller, top prospect, has been good, but has also only made 2 starts. So it's trust with a caveat. And so I guess if you're a Dodger fan coming into this, you say, hey, we get to see 2 of the 3 guys that we probably feel the best about right now, which is a positive thing. And then I think Michael Grove, better than Syndergaard. Like I feel better about him pitching in this series than Noah Syndergaard. So I would say the Dodgers feel okay about the pitching, but I do want to talk about offense too. You mentioned the Yankees kind of getting healthy at the right moment. Should you mentioned that the lineup has looked weak from 5 to 9, but if you add Donaldson, if you add Stanton, and even Rizzo, who is out for the Seattle series,
that's right. Rizzo's been out too.
Like it feels like maybe the offense is coming together at a good time, and maybe that's the thing that the Dodgers should be most worried about.
Yeah, I mean, the names are certainly going to look better. You add Stanton and Donaldson is there. That looks better than Willie Calhoun and whoever is playing third base that night. But like those guys haven't played in a while, so they're probably going to not look that great at the plate. So even though the names are better, you're getting them literally as they come off the IL and having just faced Double-A talent. So, as Stanton seems to, I think he always hits well at Dodger Stadium. I know he hit a home run last time when the Yankees were out there, and he hit one in the All-Star game. And he's one of those guys that seems to relish the big moment. But Judge has been the key. Judge has been the best player in baseball the last season and a half. He's been every bit as good this year as he was last year when he set the American League home run record. Like he's just an absolute animal. His at-bats, every at-bat is quality. He never has give up at bats. Even if he gets beat, it's on a 3-2 pitch or something like that. It's always a deep count. Gleyber Torres has been really solid for the Yankees this year. And Rizzo not being there to hit behind Judge has hurt. He had that weird play with Tatis. Thought it was his shoulder, thought it was his arm, ended up being a stiff neck. He was in concussion protocol. Boone said he would have been available for emergencies in the Seattle's last game, and he expects him to play Friday and play the whole series. So we'll see if that's the case. But yeah, as far as the Yankees lineup, it's getting healthier, which is good. But, one thing I do want to mention to close the loop on the pitching, the Yankees bullpen has been fantastic. Okay. The big 3 in the bullpen are Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, and Michael King. All 3 of those guys have been getting the high leverage outs. And Holmes came into the year as the closer, but he kind of lost that job. But now they're kind of just doing closer by committee / high leverage spots, and it's been working. But even the next 2-3 guys in the bullpen, Albert Abreu, Jimmy Cordero, Ron Marinaccio, they have confidence in all of those guys. So I know the Dodger bullpen you had mentioned to me has been up and down this year. The Yankees bullpen has not. It's been very, very good. So, when the Yankees get into games close and late, they've won a lot of those games because of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, and that's got to be a great feeling. I'll give more context to the Dodgers bullpen. I would say they've got a few guys that are absolutely elite. And once you get past like the top 3, maybe 4 arms out there, it's an absolute, crapshoot. Like, are we getting, I mean, they've literally got guys out there with like 8.0 ERAs. Yeah. So you've got Evan Phillips, who I think is probably one of the best kept secrets in baseball as a relief pitcher, a guy that they claimed off of waivers who was DFA'd by a couple things. The Dodgers tweaked something last year, one of the best relief pitchers in baseball. This year, yet again, has been incredible. 1.66 ERA. They've got a lefty, Caleb Ferguson, who a few years ago was great. Then he got hurt, Tommy John surgery, has been working his way back. He's got a 1.35 ERA this year. And again, you could argue has been one of those 2 guys has been their best reliever. And if either of those guys is on the mound against righty, lefty, anything, I would tell you that Dodger fans are feeling pretty confident in that scenario. Then they've got a couple guys, Brusdar Graterol, who looks incredible, throws 101. It moves like crazy. Can't strike anybody out. So the ERA has been good this year, 1.90. But, some of the metric stuff would tell you that's maybe not the high leverage guy you want to trust. And so beyond that, they've just got Victor Gonzalez, who wasn't really in the mix, has been good this year. Yency Almonte, who was great last year, but I think he's got an ERA of 7.04 this year. Alex Vesia, one of their best relievers last year, has an ERA that, isn't even on the top 25 list that I'm looking at because it's so bad. So if the Dodgers can get to like the 7th inning with a lead, I think Dodger fans would tell Yankee people they feel okay. Like if we can get 6 outs from Ferguson and Phillips, we feel all right about that. I think if the starter's coming out in the 5th inning and they've got to build the bridge until you get to the 8th inning, I would say expect some roller coasters. And if you're live betting, the over might be a good choice for a couple innings.
Well, so it sounds like we both feel confident entering the 7th and 8th inning in a close game. So watch it be 2-2 tonight, going or on Friday night going in, and then 7 more runs are scored because
Yeah, exactly.
of course we're going to be wrong.
Yeah, no, I said that they have a guy Almonte who was incredible last year, and he had a stretch a couple weeks ago where he had like 6 consecutive appearances. He hadn't allowed a hit. And I come on and I'm like, you know what? I think this guy's found it. I think he's back. And it could, I mean, my Twitter mentions for the next 3 days were all over the place because his next 2 appearances were like 5 earned runs in 1.1 innings. And it was just like, oh, he's back, huh? And so now he's back to being good. And I'm not saying anything. I have no opinions about whether or not Yency Almonte is back.
Well, your first mistake was, listening to Twitter.
Fair.
All right. Well, yeah, this was great. Anything else you'd like to touch on for the series or want to know about the Yanks?
I would just say on the Dodgers piece, one thing that is worth noting is the Dodgers lineup. I'm curious. Maybe I'll ask it this way: like the Dodgers lineup right now, if you look at the 1 through 5, they've got Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith the catcher, JD Martinez DH, and Max Muncy who plays third base. I'm insulated, obviously. I follow the Dodgers the most closely. I would contend that 1 through 5 is, I'm not saying it's the best. I would say it's one of the best. And yeah. I would suggest that is currently performing as one of the best. But I'm curious from you, like Will Smith, for example, catcher. We know about Mookie Betts. Everybody knows how good Mookie is. Everybody knows how insane Freddie Freeman is. I think even JD Martinez, especially to a Yankees fan, like they're familiar with when JD Martinez is clicking. JD
right Martinez, now. Well familiar with JD Martinez, and the fact that he's having a little bit of a late career resurgence with the Dodgers is
totally. So I guess I'm curious from a Yankees fan perspective, like what do you think about when you hear about like Will Smith, for example?
He's not on my radar, frankly. Okay. I mean, I love Independence Day, but Will Smith is not on my radar. Then the other names that you talked about, like Freddie Freeman's numbers are eye popping. Yeah. Mookie Betts obviously is a superstar in the game, but Will Smith is not on my radar the same way Gleyber Torres is probably not on your radar, but Gleyber Torres has been having a really solid offensive year. You're going to be worrying about Rizzo and Judge in the middle of that lineup and Stanton, assuming, he's in there as well, which you should be because as a Dodgers fan in the National League, across the country, that those are the names you're going to focus on.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. And I kind of guessed that would be the answer. And the catcher position, I think, is one that's not really paid attention to. Will Smith is not a personality. I mean, not that Major League Baseball really cares all that much as an organization about personalities, but it's fascinating to me because he has been arguably the best offensive catcher in baseball for the last 3 years. He's got an OPS of like 960. He does everything really, really well. So it's just those are the things that I always like engaging with other fan base and saying, hey, well, what do you think about when you think Will Smith? They're like, I don't think about anything.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, unless you're just like this obsessed fantasy baseball player, which, there are plenty of people are, they're going to know the best, the top 10 players on every single roster. It's just like, I follow the Yankees on a daily basis more so than I follow Major League Baseball. I'm obviously interested in what's going on around Major League Baseball, but Will Smith is not making the headlines for the Dodgers. Like I said, the same way Gleyber Torres or Michael King out of the Yankees bullpen isn't making the headlines, even though if you see Michael King come out of the bullpen for the Yankees, like he's very, very good and he's got nasty stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's totally fair. That was going to be one of the questions, and maybe Torres is the answer. But besides kind of the household names, are there a couple people that you would sort of tap a Dodgers fan on the shoulder, say, hey, just, keep an eye out for this guy. He's having a surprising season. Keep an eye out. It sounds like
offensively, it's probably Gleyber, but really the keys have been the middle innings of the bullpen. They've been able to bridge the gap to the late innings with quality outs from Ron Marinaccio, Albert Abreu, Jimmy Cordero to get them to King, Peralta, and Clay Holmes. So it's like you talked about the Dodgers bullpen in the middle innings. If you're going to the bullpen with an out in the 6th inning, you're saying, oh crap. The Yankees feel confident doing that. And they've been able to win games by doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it's like you said, we'll see. I'm curious to see how it plays out, and it's helpful. And we'll probably have a 3-game set where Will Smith goes 0 for 10 with 6 strikeouts, and people are going to be like, "Hey, look at this Dodgers homer talking about a guy who's not very good." And
Jimmy Cordero will give up 7 earned runs. Yeah,
exactly.
It's going to be great. Exactly. I can't wait. But you know what? I won't be on Twitter to hear about it.
Fair enough. There you go. Smart man. Smart man.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for having me on your show and also coming on my show. This will be on. This is on both of our episodes on audio and on YouTube as well. So go check out Jeff and make sure to tell him how he did Monday morning on Twitter.
Yeah, there you go. And hey, we could cross promote here a little bit. Give Andrew and his show a follow on social media. If you're a podcast person, I'm guessing you guys are found Apple, Spotify, Google, all those places.
All the good stuff.
Bronx Pinstripes, give them a follow, a rate, a review. That helps us. So please do it to them because it helps them as well. And you can find us on all the same places. Search for the DodgerHeads podcast, DodgerBlue.com, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. Take it easy.